Yo, what's going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we're taking a look at the New Jersey Devils. They had a couple of not so great news coming out of Newark earlier this week. It's been a rough start to 2022 for your New Jersey Devils, and we'll be going over some of those key injuries that they have right now to start this year. So the first one we're going to get into is their big fish free agent signing this past summer. 28-year-old defenseman Dougie Hamilton was placed on the injured reserve earlier this past weekend. Tough news for the Devils here. It looks like hip surgery will be necessary for the Devils defenseman. He's going into surgery this week, and he's expected to be on injured reserve. At this point, they might as well shut him down for the season. Unless the Devils go on a playoff run come the trade deadline toward the end of the season, it may be best right now for the Devils, at the very least, to at least consider maybe shutting down Dougie Hamilton for the season. Not a great way to start off, and that's some point production that they're losing. He's had 20 points in 30 games with the New Jersey Devils so far this season. And just to add more bad news to the Devils here in 2022, their captain again, Nico Hischier, out with injury yet again. This seems to be a lower body injury. The team didn't really specify when he will be coming back. We're hoping that it's a shorter term thing, but you never really know with lower body injuries. Again, not that upper body injuries are good. Anything that involves like your ability to skate, if it's even an ankle injury or a knee, or you just don't know. When you start messing with that stuff, it could become a real issue. So that's something we'll kind of keep an eye on. But Nico Hischier has had a lot of injury issues throughout his career so far in Jersey, and now he's got a lot of responsibility. He hasn't necessarily been there, and I'm not saying that. And he's obviously been with the team and stuff, but when you're injured all the time and you're not on the ice, it's hard to be a leader by example when you're not there playing the games. So definitely not the best situation here for their captain, Nico Hischier. Jonathan Bernier, another free agent signing from this past summer, a backup goaltender. He has also been placed on the injured reserve, but he is going to be out for the entire season, so he is out for the year. He is done. He signed a 2-year deal this past summer for $8.25 million over that 2-year span. He spent the last 3 seasons with the Detroit Red Wings. He started in 8 games for the Devils and hasn't been anything super impressive. He's at 4-4, and his last game was over a month now. It was December 3rd. He was placed on the injured reserve back a week later, exactly a week later, December 10th. And that is it for Jonathan Bernier so far. And things don't really get better because, again, we already know some of their injuries they had to start this season. Miles Wood, who is going to be out for the entire season as well. Well, we really don't have a timeline, but again, at this point, you're kind of assuming he will be out for the year, and that would really suck for the Devils fans. Now the question is, how do the Devils replace a guy like Nico Hischier? Because that's a big ask. And when you talk about, at the end of the day, for Nico Hischier, it kind of comes down to Jack Hughes and Dawson Mercer, and those seem to be the guys that are going to kind of fill that void. And it's not going to be one guy. It's going to be kind of a production by committee. You can't have one of these guys take that role. So if you're looking at other guys that are in that conversation, some of them are on the COVID-19 protocol. Some of those guys being Pavel Zacha and Yegor Sharangovich would also be a prominent part in terms of taking over some of the ice time from losing their captain Nico Hischier down the middle. Now, who could replace Dougie Hamilton on the back end? That's a real difficult thing for the Devils because this is a defense that hasn't necessarily been the deepest, and they've traded a lot of their big guys out, so it's kind of hard to figure out who is really going to be a key contributor on that blue line. Now, we know, obviously, Damon Severson will be one of those guys, but other than that, you could kind of just roll the dice and kind of see who could be in that conversation. Looking at their defense right now, Right now you have Severson playing with Jonas Siegenthaler. I remember him with the Hershey Bears a couple years back. Pretty good defenseman. But really, it's going to be more of the Ryan Graves show. We need to see Ryan Graves step up and kind of develop a little bit. Ty Smith as well. There's a very important part here for him because he's going to be taking those power play minutes from Dougie Hamilton, quarterbacking the power play. He'll probably be potentially on the first pairing. If it's not Damon Severson, it might be Ty Smith. So that's a pretty big deal thing. Christian Yaros, I guess his name, Christian Yaros, is another guy to also keep an eye on. And then obviously PK Subban. But you're really looking at Christian Yaros and Ty Smith as the two guys that are going to have to probably take on more of the minutes that Dougie Hamilton has now kind of left a hole on their roster. And when you look at their injuries here, this is where we're going to take a look. Like I said, Jonathan Bernier, hip injury, so he had hip surgery. Jesper Bratt out with an illness that was back in mid-December. Ryan Graves was out with health protocols. Nico Hischier also health protocols, but we've also learned that it's a lower body injury at this point for Nico Hischier. Christian Yaros back in December, so they're all back. Subban, Tyce Thompson is out. He's out with an upper body injury, and we're not expecting to see him back anytime soon, Tyce Thompson. And then most recently, at the end of 2021, Jimmy Vesey was on COVID-19 protocol, but at this point, again, I think he's back in the lineup at this point. And then, obviously, the beginning of the season news that we found out was Miles Wood, as the Devils announced that Wood is out indefinitely after having right hip surgery. Again, at this point in the season, is it even worth it for the Devils to consider bringing him back when it looks like they won't be a playoff team? And that's really what I want to get to here today, because when you look at where the Devils sit in the standings, there should be a little bit of concern with where the Devils sit and where they are in the Metropolitan Division. Now you're looking at the Metropolitan Division right now. It's the Rangers, Capitals, and Hurricanes. And at this point, you look at the wild card. Pittsburgh has 45 points, and then Boston has 36. There is a 9-point gap between the first and second wild card spot. So in that sense, the Devils are technically only 3 points out of a playoff spot, which gives you some hope until you realize the Devils have played 35 games. Right in front of them, Detroit has played 34. They have 2 more points than the Devils. And the Boston Bruins have only played 29 games. They played 6 less games than the Devils, and they still have a 3-point lead on them. That is quite concerning in that regard. So, again, it just shows you there is a clear gap, maybe more so than I thought, in the Eastern Conference, specifically the Metropolitan Division. I really thought this division, they would kind of beat each other up. That doesn't seem to be the case. You have the haves and you have the have-nots. When you look at the division overall, Washington, the Rangers, Washington, Carolina, Pittsburgh, and then a 12-point gap between 4th and 5th place in this division, and that is between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New Jersey Devils. So you have the 4 good teams in the Metro, and the 4 not-so-good teams, like at all not-so-good teams in the Devils, the Flyers, the Blue Jackets. Yes, the New York Islanders are there as well. So that is kind of how things look overall for the Devils. It's not the most promising. If I'm going to be honest with you, you're putting a lot of responsibility on guys that haven't necessarily been there, and guys that are just depth players. You're giving them prominent roles on your team. There's always going to be disaster when you start to do that. And I think that's something that the Devils at some point realize here, that is going to be a problem for them in terms of if they really want to take the next step. If they want to be playing meaningful games in April and March, you have to have enough depth. And to be honest, you need some luck. You need to have your top guys healthy. And the Devils haven't even been able to get themselves that this season. That has been a growing trend here for the Devils, though. This isn't the first time we've seen injuries here to Mackenzie Blackwood recently. Nico Hischier has been a big one with injuries. Even Jack Hughes to some extent. That kind of stuff is concerning if you're a Devils fan. You start to wonder, what is going on there in terms of what they're doing, their preparations for games, for practices, whatever it is, because you shouldn't be seeing all these injuries. And it just seems like when 2 guys come back for the Devils, 2 guys go out just in their place. And it's just, you're trying to always stay right above water. You can't really be successful, especially in a tough division like this, with that kind of mentality. So it's not the end yet for the Devils, but going into mid-January at this point, I don't know how I see them making the playoffs at this point. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Couple of questions. Do the Devils make the playoffs this year? I don't think they will, but let me know what you guys think. And who's going to replace some of these big guys that the Devils have lost? Again, Jonathan Bernier out for the season. Dougie Hamilton potentially out for the season. And Nico Hischier seems like a shorter-term injury. It seems like more of a day-to-day thing, but a lower body injury. And it seems like at least once a season you could expect him out of the lineup with injury. And that's kind of been the story for Nico Hischier over the past now going into 2 years. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time.